The massive alien ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline surface reflecting the distant sunlight. The beings aboard, known as the Dominators, had conquered 17 galaxies over 10,000 years. They saw Earth as just another primitive world to add to their collection. Captain Ray Thompson stood at attention in the United Nations Emergency Council chamber, his weathered face showing the strain of the past 72 hours. As Earth Space Defense Commander, he had to deliver the news that would change humanity forever. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart, "the alien vessel is larger than anything we've ever seen. Our most powerful weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain." The room erupted in fearful whispers. The Dominators had sent their message across all frequencies, in perfect English: submit or be destroyed. Their scans showed Earth's relatively basic space technology, limited orbital defenses, and what they perceived as primitive military capabilities. What they didn't know was that humans had learned to be crafty. While humanity hadn't mastered faster-than-light travel or built giant space stations, they had perfected something else: guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, and the art of appearing weaker than they were. "Let them think we're weak," General Maria Rodriguez said, standing up from her seat at the council table. "It's what we do best." She pulled up classified footage from Earth's hidden military archives, showing underground bases carved into mountains, automated defense systems disguised as natural formations, and the results of Project Phoenix, a planetary shield system that had been kept secret from the public for decades. The council members watched in amazement as she revealed humanity's true defensive capabilities. Earth had learned from its own history, from the small forces that had defeated empires, from the resistance movements that had outlasted invaders, from every underdog that had ever triumphed against overwhelming odds. "We let them scan our obvious defenses," Thompson added with a slight smile. "But they have no idea about the tricks we've hidden up our sleeves. Humanity has been preparing for this moment ever since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone." As the alien ship drew closer to Earth, their leaders confident in an easy victory, they remained unaware of one crucial fact: humans had spent their entire history fighting, surviving, and overcoming superior forces. They had turned their perceived weakness into their greatest strength. The Dominators were about to learn why every human child knew the story of David and Goliath, why Earth's history books were filled with tales of smaller forces defeating larger ones, and why humans smiled when others underestimated them. The trap was set. Earth looked weak, exactly as planned. The Dominator battleship entered Earth's orbit with the confidence of a predator cornering helpless prey. Their initial scans detected only a handful of primitive satellites and what appeared to be outdated defense stations. Supreme Commander Apex of the Dominators smiled, revealing rows of metallic teeth. This would be the easiest conquest in decades. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Thompson watched the alien ships approach on the holographic display. Beside him, General Rodriguez was coordinating with military bases hidden across the globe. The plan was in motion. "They're broadcasting their demands again," a young communications officer announced. "They're giving us 6 hours to surrender and begin the transition of power." Thompson exchanged knowing looks with his fellow commanders. 6 hours was more than enough time. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, submarines that appeared to be normal military vessels on alien scans began transforming. Their outer shells split apart, revealing advanced weaponry that had been masked by revolutionary cloaking technology. In orbit, what the Dominators had dismissed as space debris suddenly powered up, thousands of miniature combat drones disguised as defunct satellites. "All sectors report ready," General Rodriguez announced, her voice calm but determined. "Operation Paper Tiger is go." The name was fitting. For centuries, humans had perfected the art of appearing harmless while concealing deadly capability. Now, that strategy would be tested on a cosmic scale. The first phase began. What the Dominators saw as pathetic attempts at resistance, missiles launched from visible military bases, was actually a carefully choreographed dance. Each explosion near their ship created a specific electromagnetic pulse pattern, gradually disrupting their advanced shielding systems in ways their overconfident engineers had never considered. "They're responding exactly as predicted," Thompson noted, watching the alien vessel's energy readings fluctuate. "Arrogance has made them sloppy. They're not even bothering to analyze our attack patterns." The Dominators launched their first strike against Earth, targeting what they believed to be major military installations. Their energy beams struck empty bunkers and abandoned bases, Hollywood-worthy props that had been built for exactly this purpose. "Now," Rodriguez commanded. In that instant, Earth revealed its first real card. The planetary shield system activated, but not as a simple barrier. Instead, it functioned as a massive energy collection net, absorbing the Dominator's attack and channeling it into Earth's hidden weapon systems. In orbit, the debris field of seemingly broken satellites suddenly came alive. Thousands of tiny drones swarmed the alien vessel, each carrying a minute amount of a special compound developed through decades of reverse engineering crashed alien technology. Individually, they were harmless. Together, they began eating through the Dominator ship's hull like cosmic termites. "They're scanning for the source of the attack," the sensor officer reported with a slight grin. "But they're still using standard detection protocols. They haven't figured out that we've learned to hide in plain sight." The Dominator ship's communications array erupted in a chaos of confused signals. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced an enemy that had prepared for them in ways they couldn't comprehend. Their scans showed primitive technology, but their systems were failing against weapons that shouldn't exist. "Send the message," Thompson ordered. Across all frequencies, in the same clear English the Dominators had used to deliver their ultimatum, Earth responded, "You assumed we would be easy prey. You should have studied our history more carefully. This is your only warning: retreat, or learn why humanity has survived every threat we've ever faced." As the message played, hidden installations across Earth's surface began powering up. In the Amazon rainforest, trees that had appeared normal on scans revealed themselves to be disguised energy collectors. Beneath the Sahara's sands, what seemed to be archaeological sites transformed into launch facilities. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, and they had done it in the most human way possible, by making their greatest strength appear to be their greatest weakness. Supreme Commander Apex of the Dominators raged as another system failure alert blared through their command center. Their mighty vessel, pride of the Dominator fleet, was being consumed by microscopic machines they couldn't even detect properly. The ship's outer hull integrity had dropped to 60%, and their weapon systems were operating at diminished capacity. "Impossible," Apex snarled, watching the swarm of what they had dismissed as primitive satellites continue their relentless attack. "These humans are supposed to be centuries behind us in technology. Our preliminary scans confirmed it." Back on Earth, Captain Thompson and his team monitored the Dominator's increasingly frantic communications. "They still haven't figured out our biggest advantage," he said, turning to General Rodriguez. "They think technology alone wins wars." Rodriguez nodded, remembering countless battles throughout human history where superior technology had fallen to superior strategy. "Launch Phase 3? "Launch Phase 3, Thompson confirmed. Deep within Earth's oceans, massive structures began to rise. The Marianas Trench, which the Dominators had scanned and dismissed as a simple geological formation, revealed its true nature. The underwater bases that humans had been building for decades emerged from the depths, their designs based on principles that the Dominators had never considered, technology that worked with nature rather than trying to overpower it. "Water pressure amplification systems online," the engineering chief reported. "Ready to demonstrate why humans learn to work with our planet instead of just trying to rule it." The orbital battle took an unexpected turn as Earth's oceans themselves seemed to respond to human commands. Massive jets of pressurized water, superheated and accelerated by hidden facilities, shot toward the alien vessel. The Dominator's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and solid projectiles, struggled against this apparently primitive but devastatingly effective attack. Their arrogance is their weakness, Thompson observed. They never considered that we'd develop weapons based on simple physics and natural forces rather than just trying to copy their advanced technology. In orbit, the Dominator ship's internal systems were in chaos. Their sensors, calibrated to detect advanced energy weapons and shield frequencies, were nearly blind to the hybrid warfare humanity had developed. Each water jet that struck their hull was laden with more of the microscopic machines, which began their work immediately upon impact. Multiple hull breaches detected, a junior officer reported. The humans, they're not just fighting with technology. They're using strategies we've never encountered before. Apex watched in growing horror as reports flooded in from all sectors of the ship. The humans were attacking them with weapons that shouldn't have been threatening but somehow were devastating. Their mighty vessel was being undone by what seemed like primitive physics and simple machines working in perfect concert. On Earth, Thompson received a new report that made him smile. The Brazilian team reports their gravity pulse array is ready. Should we show them another trick? Rodriguez grinned. Let's remind them why humans never put all their eggs in one basket. Hidden facilities in the Amazon rainforest powered up, using the Earth's own magnetic field to generate targeted gravity pulses. The Dominator ship, already struggling with multiple system failures, suddenly found itself fighting against localized gravity wells that threatened to tear it apart. Send the second message, Thompson ordered. The human's voice crackled across all frequencies again. Your scans showed you what we wanted you to see. You looked for advanced technology but failed to understand that humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to innovate, adapt, and overcome. We turned our entire planet into a weapon you couldn't detect because you never imagined we would think so differently from you. In the Dominator ship's command center, Apex received a report that chilled them to their core. The humans weren't just defending their planet, they were systematically dismantling every advantage the Dominators had relied upon for millennia of conquest. Their supposed technological superiority meant nothing against an enemy that had learned to fight in ways they had never imagined. And as the battle continued, more of Earth's hidden defenses prepared to reveal themselves. Humanity was just getting started. Supreme Commander Apex made a decision that would haunt them forever. They called for reinforcements. As emergency signals blazed across space, 3 more Dominator warships emerged from hyperspace. Each was as massive as the first, bristling with weapons that had conquered countless worlds. In the underground command center, Captain Thompson watched the new arrivals with calm determination. Right on schedule, he said, nodding to General Rodriguez. They're doing exactly what the simulations predicted. Humans have always been good at learning from history, Rodriguez replied. How many empires fell because they kept throwing more forces into a trap? The Dominator reinforcements took aggressive attack positions around Earth, their weapons charged and ready. They had reviewed the data from the first ship's battle and believed they had decoded humanity's tricks. Their upgraded shields were modified to resist the water attacks, and their hulls were reinforced against the microscopic machines. They think they've adapted, Thompson said, watching the enemy ship's formations. Time to show them why humans never use the same trick twice. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations activated their second-phase protocols. What the Dominators had assumed were simple underground bunkers suddenly ejected thousands of objects into the sky. To their scans, they appeared to be crude missiles, barely worth noticing. That was their second major mistake. Each projectile split apart in the upper atmosphere, releasing clouds of what seemed to be ordinary metal dust. The Dominator's advanced sensors dismissed it as primitive chaff, not even worth raising shields against. But this dust was humanity's next surprise. Each particle was a microscopic robot, programmed with swarm intelligence derived from studying Earth's insect colonies. Activate the electromagnetic web, Thompson ordered. Hidden transmitters around the globe pulsed to life, creating an invisible network of electromagnetic fields. The metal dust responded, forming complex geometric patterns in space, patterns that began to interact with the Dominator's shield frequencies in ways their engineers had never imagined possible. They based their entire defense on energy shields, Rodriguez observed. They never considered that we'd find a way to turn their own shield frequencies against them. Inside the Dominator ships, systems began to fail in cascading patterns. Their shields, designed to be impenetrable barriers, were being transformed into conductors that carried humanity's attacks directly into their vessels' critical systems. Impossible! Apex roared as their flagship's primary power core began to fluctuate. These are primitive beings. They barely have space flight. On Earth's surface, more surprises emerged. The great deserts, which the Dominators had dismissed as empty wastelands, transformed as millions of particles of sand revealed themselves to be camouflaged microdrones. They rose into the sky in massive clouds, each one carrying a tiny payload of the same shield-disrupting compounds that had proven so effective. "Launch the kinetic strikers," Thompson commanded. From the dark side of the moon, where the Dominators hadn't bothered to look closely, human installations that had been disguised as natural craters revealed themselves. They launched projectiles that appeared primitive, simple metals accelerated to high speeds. But these weapons had been designed with one purpose: to strike at exactly the frequencies where the Dominator's shields would be weakest. "The beauty of it," Rodriguez said, watching the battle unfold, "is that they still think they're fighting a technological war. They haven't realized that every primitive attack is actually part of a larger strategy." The Dominator ships, their shields failing and their hulls being consumed by multiple types of tactical nanoweapons, began to show signs of panic. Their formation broke as each captain tried different countermeasures, but nothing worked. Everything they had learned about warfare over thousands of years of conquest meant nothing against an enemy that had spent its entire history learning to fight smarter rather than stronger. "Send the third message," Thompson ordered, watching as the mighty alien ships began to drift out of formation. The broadcast went out, "You assumed that because we hadn't spread across the stars, we weren't advanced. The truth is, we spent our time preparing our home, learning from every battle in our history, and developing ways to fight that you never imagined. This is your final warning." As the message played, the moon bases revealed their main weapons, massive rail guns that had been built into the lunar surface, hidden from all but the most detailed scans. The Dominators were about to learn another lesson about humanity: they didn't believe in fair fights. The 4 Dominator warships, their formations broken and their systems failing, attempted to regroup above Earth's northern hemisphere. Their pride had been shattered, but they still believed their superior numbers would prevail. After all, they had conquered entire galaxies. One primitive planet couldn't possibly defeat them. In the underground command center, Captain Thompson watched the enemy's desperate maneuvers with grim satisfaction. "They still don't understand," he said to General Rodriguez. "Even now, they think this is about technology and numbers. Should we show them what humanity does best?" Rodriguez asked, her hand hovering over a particular control panel. Thompson nodded. "It's time for them to learn why Earth's history is filled with stories of the few defeating the many." Across the planet, hidden installations activated their final protocols. The polar ice caps, which the Dominators had dismissed as frozen wastelands, suddenly revealed vast networks of advanced facilities built deep within the ice. These weren't weapon platforms or shield generators, they were something the aliens had never considered. "Activate the quantum entanglement network," Thompson ordered. For decades, while the world's governments publicly argued about climate change and military spending, they had secretly worked together to prepare for this moment. The polar facilities housed experimental quantum computers, linked together in ways that defied conventional physics. "They thought our communications were primitive because we still used radio waves," Rodriguez explained to her staff. "They never realized that was just what we wanted them to see." The quantum network sprang to life, instantly connecting every hidden defense system on Earth and in space. What had appeared to be separate, uncoordinated attacks suddenly became a single, synchronized assault. The swarms of nanomachines, the gravity weapons, the electromagnetic fields, everything began working in perfect harmony. Inside the Dominator ships, chaos erupted as their systems began failing in ways their technology couldn't explain. The quantum network wasn't just coordinating Earth's attacks, it was predicting and countering every possible Dominator response before they could make it. Their biggest mistake, Thompson said, watching the battle unfold, was assuming that because we hadn't spread across space, we hadn't advanced. They never considered that we chose to focus our development inward instead of outward. The Dominator ship's attempts at communication were cut off as Earth's quantum network isolated each vessel in its own electronic bubble. Their mighty engines, capable of crossing galaxies, found themselves fighting against precisely calculated gravity fields that turned their own power against them. Supreme Commander Apex watched in horror as their flagship systems reported complete failure across all defensive networks. How, they demanded. How can they be beating us with technology that shouldn't even exist? The answer came in another broadcast from Earth, this time targeting each ship individually. You thought Earth was weak because we presented ourselves as divided nations, arguing over resources and territory. The truth is, humanity united long ago in secret, preparing for the day we would meet species like yours. Every conflict you observed on our surface was carefully staged to maintain our deception. As if to demonstrate this point, the surface of the Earth seemed to transform. Military bases that had appeared primitive morphed into advanced installations. The scattered defense platforms that the Dominators had dismissed revealed themselves to be parts of a planet-wide defense grid. Now, Thompson commanded, show them what happens when humanity fights as one. The quantum network reached its full power, coordinating every defense system Earth had hidden over the decades. The swarms of nanomachines merged into larger, more complex forms. The electromagnetic fields wove themselves into patterns that defied alien understanding. The gravity weapons synchronized to create a perfect cage around each Dominator vessel. In that moment, the aliens finally understood their true mistake. They had judged Earth by their own standards, assuming that a species would display its power openly, that advancement meant expansion across space, that strength meant massive ships and powerful weapons. Instead, they had found a species that had turned deception into an art form, that had united in secret while maintaining a convincing illusion of division, and that had developed technology in ways no other civilization had imagined. Supreme Commander Apex stood on their flagship's bridge, watching as their mighty fleet hung helpless in Earth's orbit. The quantum cage around their ships had neutralized every weapon, every defense, and every escape attempt. For the first time in their 1,000-year history, the Dominators faced total defeat. "We offer our surrender," Apex transmitted, their voice carrying the weight of 17 conquered galaxies now brought low by a single planet. In the underground command center, Captain Thompson and General Rodriguez exchanged looks. "Should we accept?" Rodriguez asked, knowing the answer but following protocol. "Not yet," Thompson replied. "First, they need to understand. Prepare the final demonstration." The quantum network hummed with new energy as Earth revealed its last secret. Holographic displays appeared around each Dominator ship, showing scenes from human history, ancient battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones, resistance movements that survived against overwhelming odds, and scientific breakthroughs that came from thinking differently rather than following conventional wisdom. "You see," Thompson's voice echoed through every Dominator ship, "humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to learn from everything, even our failures. Especially our failures." The holograms shifted to show the decades of preparation, underground cities built to preserve civilization, weapon systems designed to work with nature rather than against it, and technology developed to be invisible until the moment it was needed. "Every war in our history taught us something," Rodriguez added to the transmission. "Every invasion showed us new ways to defend. Every battle proved that victory doesn't always go to the strongest, it goes to those who learn to be smarter, more adaptable, and more innovative. Apex watched in stunned silence as the displays showed how humanity had taken their greatest weakness, their division into nations and cultures, and turned it into their greatest strength. While appearing to compete and conflict with each other, Earth's nations had actually been developing different pieces of a global defense system, each contributing unique approaches and ideas. We knew we weren't alone in the universe, Thompson continued. We knew that someday, someone like you would come. Instead of building obvious defenses, we created something no other species had ever considered, a planetary defense system disguised as a divided world. The quantum network now revealed its true purpose. It wasn't just a weapon or a coordination system, it was humanity's ultimate achievement. The network began downloading data directly into the Dominator ship's computers, showing them exactly how thoroughly they had been outmaneuvered from the very beginning. You had one advantage we couldn't match, Rodriguez explained. The ability to travel between stars. But while you spent millennia expanding outward, humanity turned inward. We didn't just prepare to fight, we prepared to win. Apex and their crew watched as the final pieces fell into place. Earth hadn't just defeated them, it had shattered every assumption the Dominators had about warfare, technology, and civilization itself. The humans had proved that true strength wasn't about size, numbers, or even technological advancement, it was about innovation, adaptation, and the wisdom to appear weak when you were strong. We accept your surrender, Thompson finally announced. But we require more than just your retreat. You will return to your empire with a message: Earth is not to be threatened. We prefer peace, but we have mastered war in ways you never imagined possible. As if to emphasize this point, the quantum network released its hold on one small section of a Dominator ship, allowing them to scan Earth one final time. What they saw stunned them: layers upon layers of defenses, technologies that worked on principles their science couldn't explain, and weapons that could have destroyed them at any time. Remember this day, Rodriguez concluded. Remember that you found what looked like an easy target and instead discovered humanity's truth: we are at our strongest when others think we are weak. The Dominator ships were released from the quantum cage, their systems partially restored, enough to limp home but not enough to pose any threat. As they retreated into hyperspace, they carried with them a lesson that would echo across the galaxies: Earth wasn't just defended by weapons and technology, it was protected by humanity's greatest gift, the ability to learn, adapt, and overcome. Behind them, Earth's defenses disappeared once again, fading back into the background of what seemed to be an ordinary, slightly primitive planet. Humanity returned to its carefully maintained illusion of division and weakness, ready for the next would-be conqueror who might mistake their preparation for vulnerability.